Hi everyone, it's Jenny here, and today I want to talk to you about digestion and how stress can impact our digestion in preventing us from absorbing the maximum amount of nutrients from our food when we eat. So first, let's talk about the role of digestion, how it works in the process of breaking down food. So the first step is actually chewing our food, and this is a really important step because the more that we can break down the food in our mouth, the easier it's going to be on our stomach to further break down the food so that we can absorb the most nutrients in our body. So slowly chew the food, swallow down in the esophagus into our stomach, and once the food enters our stomach, the chemical breakdown of the food begins with the gastric juices, the enzymes breaking down food, and also the stomach itself is a tough muscle that is constantly contracting and releasing, and this contraction is breaking down the food even further and also pushing it down slowly down into the small intestine. Once food enters the small intestine, it is further broken down by enzymes into smaller and smaller molecules. Once they are small enough, they are then able to enter through the small intestinal membrane walls of the small intestine, and they enter the bloodstream and the lymphatic system, which is the transportation system of the body, and they get delivered to all the cells, tissues, muscles, every part of our body that needs those nutrients, which are our macronutrients and our micronutrients. So, and then the food is then traveled down further through the small intestine, entering into the large intestine, where the last nutrients are absorbed, the vitamin K and the B complexes, and anything else that's left is considered waste and it is released out of the body. So that is how our body absorbs nutrients through digestion. Now I want to talk to you about stress and what happens in our body when we're stressed. You may notice some physical changes. So think about times where you feel a little overwhelmed, a bit stressed out. Maybe you're at work and you have work stress, or there's just a busy schedule and you're trying to get from point A to point B very quickly and you become stressed, right? So some of those physical changes that you may notice that is letting you know that your body is going into fight or flight mode is you will have increased heart rate. Blood is pumping through your veins and arteries at a faster rate. Your breathing may become more shallow and lighter. You may notice that you're sweating. You'll notice, or you may not notice, but your muscles are actually contracting and tightening up because they're ready for a fight. You know, the stress response that we have, the reason that we have these physical changes in our body is because stress was created to protect ourselves from threats that could harm us. So back in the day, during caveman times, the stresses during that time were different than they are today. So for example, caveman needed to go into survival mode on a regular basis from being attacked by, animals, lion, tigers, or other people. So the body needed a stress response of the release of cortisol so that our muscles can tighten to make us stronger. We may have racing thoughts so that we can focus on the threat at hand and not be distracted. So all of these physical changes is really to protect ourselves. Now today, in today's time, our stresses have changed. We don't have to worry so much on a daily basis of being attacked by animals or that our life is at a threat on a daily basis. So some of our stresses today are things like work deadlines, stress in relationships, different things like that. And our body doesn't really distinguish the two. So it's still going into fight or flight mode, even though you're really just stressed about giving a public speech in front of a large crowd of people. When our body has this fight or flight mode turned on, digestion actually takes a step back, and it may even shut off for a little while you're going through the stressful event. So let's say you have 30 minutes to get an email done and you're stressed about it and you're sitting at your computer vigorously working, and at the same time you're eating, and you're eating really quickly your lunch so that you get some food in your body. So what's happening while you're eating the food is your body isn't focused on digesting, breaking down the food into smaller molecules, getting those nutrients sent out to your cells, because it's a bit consumed with what the threat is. So I like to paint pictures of what happens in my body, because it's hard to visually look into your body and see this process of what is happening to me when I feel stressed and I'm eating. So I'm gonna paint a little picture story for you of how I see it. I see the digestive system as a factory, you can say. As we eat our food and it goes down the esophagus, it's entering a conveyor belt. And all of the enzymes that is breaking down the food and doing the job with the gastric juices and the chemical process of the breakdown of food, those enzymes I see as little work people. They're little workers doing their job of processing the food, and each one has a very important job, specific job on what to do. So they're packing the nutrients in a box, and the box is going to continue on down and get shipped out through the intestinal lining and enter the delivery system of our blood and lymphatic system, and it's going to get delivered to our cells, the receivers. And the cells, you can imagine, are people. Can you imagine yourself when you receive your Amazon package and it gets delivered by the mailman? You get excited. You open up your box and the cells are opening their box and they are getting nutrients. They're very happy cells. They're thriving and growing, and homeostasis is happening in your body. So let's say that these enzyme workers are doing their job, and all of a sudden the brain, the control center, gets a signal that something is not right in the body. The brain isn't quite sure what it is, but it knows that there's a threat. So what they do is they decide, let's hit the fight or flight button. The fight or fight button is an alarm system in the body. So if you can imagine being in a business and hearing a fire alarm going off, it gets everyone's attention. Everyone stops what they're doing when an alarm goes off and they look around to see what is the threat, what is happening. During this fight or flight mode, these enzyme workers may look up and think, well, I don't see a threat. It doesn't seem like anything is happening, but I'm not sure why this alarm is going off. So I'm going to continue to pack the food, but I'm stopping and pausing and trying to figure this out. As these enzymes are figuring everything out, the conveyor belt is still going. So can you imagine a distracted worker? You would miss things. So maybe a few boxes go by that didn't get any nutrients, and these empty boxes are continuing on, and they get packaged, they still go into the bloodstream, and the cells get their package and they open up the box and there's no nutrients. So then we're having unhappy cells. The cells are sad that they didn't get any nutrients, and it makes them more vulnerable now. They're becoming more and more vulnerable to free radicals, disease, and they may begin to start growing abnormally and just becoming unhealthy cells. And this is creating an environment where disease can thrive. So we want to make sure that they are getting their nutrient package. So I have a couple ways and tips of eating, what you can do when you're eating to make sure that you're getting the most amount of nutrients. So we know that, say, driving in a car, eating food on the go, cramming food down your mouth because there's no time for food, we know that that's not an optimal way of getting all of the proper nutrients into the bloodstream. So the ideal way would be, say, sitting down at a table, creating a good environment and atmosphere of what is around you when you're eating your food. If you're eating at the kitchen table, are you eating with friends and family and loved ones that you can share good conversation with? When we're having great conversation with people that we love and care about, fight or flight isn't on at that time. Instead, rest and digest is turned on, and our body is releasing, instead of cortisol, say serotonin, and we feel good, and taking the time to slowly eat our food. And I have seen some people sit down quickly and then they eat a good sized meal in 5 to 10 minutes. Take your time eating, allow it to span out to 20 minutes of sitting there and eating your food. Enjoy your food as well. It is so important that we enjoy food. It's not good to sit there and think, man, this does not taste good, Allow your food to taste good. If it needs more seasoning, add more seasoning. Find ways to make sure that your food is very tasteful to you and enjoy it. Find pleasure in eating your food, because the more happy that you are and satisfied with what you're eating is also keeping you in a relaxed state. So we want that good atmosphere, and I know that that's hard to create on a regular basis, especially when you're on the go. So, some other ideas could be, if you're at work, is there a possibility that you can step away from your desk and go outside, sit on the grass and eat your food? Is it possible when you're at home or in your office and you gotta get this work done, and it's important that your computer's open and that you do get work done? Maybe create a good clean space at your desk. If you have papers sitting around, organize your papers, make them nice and neat, put all the pens away and put them in a pen jar. Make sure that you're not too distracted with what's around you, and do your work but slowly eat your food. Create at least a relaxing atmosphere while you're eating your food. So there's different ways that you can work with a busy schedule and still create a good atmosphere. Another way, just to take it a little bit of a step further, is it is so important that we really appreciate our food and eat whole natural foods that haven't been altered, don't have harsh ingredients in them. So one thing that I would encourage you to do, if you're able to do this, is one Saturday, find someone like a friend or your significant other, a family member, and go to a farmer's market and visit the farmer that is there and look at all of the produce that they have. Maybe have a conversation with them, ask them how they grow their produce, and ask them questions about different vegetables that maybe you don't know a lot about. If you see something that you haven't eaten before that you find interesting, buy it and experiment with it, taste it, see if you like it. And I think that that is really fun. I think it's fun to expand your buffet of healthy foods and see if you like something, and maybe you don't like it, and it's good to know that. So take the food home, your bag of veggies, and prepare them and cook them. Take your time chopping the vegetables up. Follow a new recipe that is to cook all the vegetables. Maybe pair it with some quinoa or brown rice or a lean meat, and take your time cooking the food. And when you prepare your dish, make it look pretty. Just instead of throwing it on your plate in a hurry, take your time and admire your food and how beautiful it is, because the beauty in food that's the nutrients right there. You know, when you see these vibrant colors like a big purple cabbage or a beautiful colored red bell pepper, you know, a yellow squash, green beans, all of those colors, the textures of the food, when you slice them open, the smells that you get from the food, that is all the phytonutrients and antioxidants coming from the food. And this is the nutrients that you want to absorb in while you're digesting. So prepare your food, sit down, maybe give thanks for your food and the appreciation of where it was grown and that experience, and then take your first bite and really chew it slowly. Notice how the food tastes, you know, notice the flavor, the texture. Swallow the food slowly. Allow it to enter your stomach slowly, and don't be so rushed to get the next bite and the next bite. You know, take your time eating. Maybe put the fork down and just sit back and have a good conversation with your friend that you took to the farmer's market. Also, you may want to drink lightly during this time. Maybe only tiny sips of water while you're eating your food, because water and liquids can actually dilute the stomach acids down, which prevents the proper chemical breakdown of your food in the stomach. So check in with yourself as well while you're eating halfway through your meal, or 80% when you've eaten 80% of the amount of food on your plate. Check in with yourself and see how you're feeling. Do you feel full and satisfied? And if you are, go ahead and push your plate back and don't overeat. Don't overstuff your stomach. If you check in with yourself and you find, I'm still hungry, go ahead and finish your food. It's important that we eat enough food to get into our stomach, that our body has the energy and absorbs all the nutrients that it needs. So if you are still hungry, it's important that you keep fueling your body. At the end of your meal, take some time to relax, sit back, allowing the food to properly continue all of the hard work that it needs to do to digest this food. And just take appreciation into what the food that you just ate, and notice how your body feels after you do this. How do you feel? Do you notice any changes from eating this nutritious veggies from a farmer's market, whole grains, maybe a lean meat, to a little bit of water with your meal? How do you feel afterwards? Do you feel more energized? Do you have more energy to go about your day? Notice those physical changes. When you eat food very, very quickly, hurriedly, maybe you're not making good choices in the foods that you are cramming down. Notice the differences. How do you feel after you eat those foods in a very quick way? Do you have more acid reflux? Do you have any abdominal cramping afterwards? And do you have diarrhea later, or constipation, more bloating? These are some things to be aware of, and just create more awareness around eating your food, and reducing that fight or flight mode when you sit down to eat a meal. So I hope that this video was helpful to you. I hope that you had some good takeaway and aha moments during it, and that it can help you the next time that you are sitting down to eat a meal. If you have any questions, just feel free to send me a message, and have a great rest of your day.